This is the second tip video for the second guided response that we'll be doing for Pre-AP English. This guided response, of course, covers the Thomas Hardy poem, The Ruined Maid. You, again, can get your packet from the wiki if you have lost yours. You need to go to wiki.mickey-clark.com, click on the third trimester calendar, click on March 13th. Alternatively, you can go through makeup work. For this guided response, I have given you this as your prompt. Thomas Hardy wrote both a novel and a poem featuring a ruined woman. However, the ruined woman of his poem seems to approach her ruin in a markedly different way than Tess, the protagonist of Tess of the D'Urbervilles. Write a well-organized essay in which you compare and contrast the attitude of the woman in the poem and Tess to their role as ruined women. We're going to begin by writing our first paragraph. This is your introduction. In your introduction, I want you to begin by writing a few sentences to provide context for your essay. These sentences are going to introduce the literature that you'll be discussing, and that includes the titles, the author, the subject material of each. What you need to imagine is that the person reading your essay has not, in fact, read your prompt. You need to give them some context to kind of lead them into your discussion before you just start talking. Imagine it this way. If you were to walk up on a conversation with your friends and they're discussing a movie they've seen the night before, if you haven't seen that movie and you haven't heard the beginning of the conversation, you're going to be somewhat confused. So you need to give us the context there. The concluding sentence of your introductory paragraph is your thesis statement. Now I'm going to take a moment to remind you of our thesis statement formula. In title of work, author uses literary technique to, and then you choose a power verb, something like convey, the tone, theme, purpose, meaning of the work as a whole. Now your thesis statement for this essay is not going to be completely like that one, but it should include these basic elements unless you have stated them elsewhere in the essay. It's not necessary to keep restating the author's name and keep restating the title of the work just for the sake of doing so. I want you to write your thesis statement and make it clear in your thesis statement what your opinion is regarding how these two women compare and contrast. You're probably not going to be able to write that thesis statement at this point, so just leave it for now. To get you ready to write that thesis statement, let's move on to page 4 of your packet, the organizational structure. Now, the organizational structure of your essay is extremely important, and this is what got a lot of you into trouble on your previous constructed response. If you haven't thought through your organizational structure and you haven't decided on a specific topic for each paragraph, sometimes you can end up not, in fact, answering the question that you originally set out to answer. So what I want you to do here is I want you to come up with the topic for your first body paragraph, the topic for your second body paragraph. You may or may not have a third body paragraph. Quite frankly, I'll be surprised if many of you do. I'm assuming most of you are going to structure your essay in such a way that your first paragraph will discuss perhaps Tess, your second, the ruined maid, or perhaps your first body paragraph will discuss comparisons, the second paragraph contrasts, whatever that may be. Before you can truly decide what your topic is going to be, you need to actually look at the evidence and consider it. Now, this is a Venn diagram. I'm sure you've seen Venn diagrams before. What you're going to do on your Venn diagram is you need to write down on one side the way that Tess feels about being a ruined maid, the way that the ruined maid feels about it, and then you need to look and see if there's any overlap. Are we comparing these young ladies? Are we contrasting these young ladies? Do they have certain traits that are similar? Do they have certain feelings that are similar? Is their background similar? That sort of thing. So what I suggest you do is kind of work backwards. First, do your Venn diagram. Figure out what the similarities and the differences of the two women are. Then decide how you're going to structure your essay. What are you going to talk about in your first paragraph? What are you going to talk about in your second? If you do, in fact, determine that you need a third paragraph, then you would go ahead and write down the topic for your third paragraph. So that's what you're going to do for page 3 and page 4. Page 5 is when you actually begin working on your body paragraphs. Each of your body paragraphs should begin with a topic sentence that clearly identifies the topic of the paragraph and ties it back to your thesis statement. A bad example is the first thing that I'm going to talk about is topic. It's a very bad example. It's very simple, it's very formulaic, and you haven't given any new information. Something that's a little bit stronger is the author clearly establishes my topic through this method. In this case, I want your topic sentence to clearly establish whether your topic is comparison or contrast or Tess or the ruined maid, and I want it to be very clear what that paragraph is going to be discussing as it pertains to each. Good body paragraphs are also going to include 2 to 3 pieces of evidence in support of your topic and 2 to 3 sentences explaining the significance of your evidence. Your body paragraph should be no shorter than 7 sentences, and yes, I will be counting them. What I want you to keep in mind is this. You tend to have extremely short body paragraphs, and the reason that you have those short body paragraphs is because you make the assumption that I'm on the same mental wavelength that you are. You don't give me your line of reasoning because you assume that I just know. What I need for you to do for me is to lay it out very clearly and make sure that I'm 100% with you every single step of the way. Don't just assume that because Tess is a girl, the ruined maid is a girl, that I understand that you know that they're both girls. You need to say so. Yes, that's a very simplistic explanation. But don't just say, Tess and the ruined maid feel the same way. How do you know they feel the same way? In what specific way do they feel the same way? Give me details. Make me understand the exact way that you understand. If you've done that, you're going to score really well. If you haven't, it kind of depends. If you use poetry, which of course you will, the ruined maid is a poem, I want you to give me line numbers. So count down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that sort of thing, and give me a line number for each line that you quote from the poem. You need to include chapter numbers for your lines from Tess of the D'Urbervilles, because most of you are probably using Kindle, iPhone, that sort of thing. You're not going to have page numbers. If you have them, that's wonderful. Please use them. If you don't, again, you can give me chapter numbers instead. Understand, for your tally, quotes count as 1 sentence. I don't care if it's a 10-sentence quote. I'm only going to count it as 1. Part of that is to teach you not to use excessive quotes to pad the length of your essay. When you're explaining the significance of your quote, you're basically justifying to me 3 things. How does this quote support your argument? Why is this quote better than any of the other quotes that you could have chosen from that book or that poem to support your argument? And finally, what does this quote mean in relation to your argument? What's the significance? Finally, you're going to have the conclusion to your essay. Now, a good conclusion is not a restatement of your prompt, of your thesis, of one of your topic sentences, anything like that. It's not a rehash of everything you've just said. A good conclusion is something fresh, something that takes your essay a step beyond, a step further. A good conclusion is going to tell me, so what? Okay, so I've read this. What am I, as the reader, supposed to do, supposed to think, supposed to believe, supposed to feel as a result of reading everything that you've just said? Make it a point to make some kind of connection beyond the essay. Make an application to real life. Are the things that you discussed in this essay still true today? Are they not? If not, why not? Go beyond. Give me something new that I can develop. So this is a general overview. Again, this essay is due on Friday. If you have questions, you need to come in and see me. I'll be more than happy to help you. As always, you can go to the wiki and get extra copies of things if you need them.